There's never been a better time to sell or trade your used car or truck.
Davenport Auto Park is ready to buy your pre-loved vehicle. The market is hot for used cars and we're paying top dollar.
Drive into Davenport today and turn your car into cash.
You'll get a cash offer on the spot. We'll even pay off your loan and give you a ride home.
Or we'll help you pick out a new ride.
Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount. For the ride of your life and the life of your ride. Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount.
Welcome to Cuisine with Gene, and our very first guest has come back.
Hey, thank you.
Sandy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you do know that you were the very first one we
I
ever
didn't
had.
realize I was the first one. I knew I was among the first, so how about that?
Over a
we
year
made
and
the
a half
tomato
ago.
tart, I think it was.
Oh, lamb. You had the
Yeah,
lamb,
I had
too.
the lamb chops and the whole bit, yeah.
Well, and you're going to make a duck stew?
I am. I'm
How
excited
interesting.
about it. Well, you know, I go hunting. I love it with a passion.
Uh-huh.
And so you end up with all these duck parts. And so you have to have some way to eat them. I'm just not a guy who feels comfortable just shooting them and leaving them there.
Oh,
so
yeah. I mean, I'm all for hunting if you eat it.
that's
but yeah.
exactly right.
And do your sons go with you?
Yeah, they do. On occasion, Chuck goes probably more than Trey, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, they both show up with me, and it's a lot of fun. You know,
Good family bonding.
it's great family bonding. You know, Trey's not an early riser, so 4 a.m. is just not his cup of tea.
Uh-huh.
Not Chuck's either, but he'll at least get up and make the effort. Take the nap in the afternoon.
Well, it looks very healthy. It's a meal in one, and it looks like it's probably something you could freeze if you make a whole lot of it, but very healthy.
Yeah, I think it is very healthy, and it's delicious. It really is. Hopefully we'll get a chance to try some of it when it's all done.
Oh, I'm counting on it.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to think, folks, because you know Sandy's running for mayor, re-election, and Sandy, and I read all the accomplishments during your tenure as mayor,
Right.
and thank you.
Well, thank you.
I mean, but I think a lot of, and I didn't know a lot of what was on there.
Right.
So you came up with a really neat idea is we will talk about the ingredients of what was accomplished and tie it to the food and make it just
Right.
really fun.
Right. That sounds great. I'm
Okay,
excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the premier things that you do, you believe in public safety and supporting law enforcement.
Absolutely.
So which one do you want to start with for the
Ooh, I
ingredient
think
on that?
that's probably the meat of it all.
Okay.
At the end of the day,
Good.
because I just did a survey poll on this particular election, and I had done one when I ran for mayor the first time. So the first time I ran, public safety ended up being 61% of the respondents said that is the number one issue in Rocky
Yeah,
Mount.
safety.
Number one, violent crime, public safety. Today, still number one, but it's dropped to 47%. And so some of the things that we've been able to do is increase police force salaries, starting pay in particular, to be
And
able to
that's-
increase our ranks.
And that's helped a lot,
It has
right?
helped a tremendous amount. I mean,
Good.
our staff is, you're starting to have turnover always, right? There's no way to get to 100%, but we're filling up the classes, we're filling up the police academies to be able to enroll and get people inserted into our police force. And we are seeing a reduction in violent crime. You know, it's soft in general, it's slow, it's always slower than you want, right? Everything. But that in combination with forming a group of folks like with ALE, with ATF, with DEA, with U.S. Attorney Mike Easley in Raleigh, with our local DA, Jeff Morsigley, the two sheriffs, our police chief, and some alphabets that I have forgotten or can't remember at the moment. And they have come together and they've worked as a unit to really try to address this from a regional perspective. Particularly when you start talking about violent crime offenders, particularly when the guns are being used, then the U.S. will take that over and they'll become federal charges, and that's a whole different court system. So a big part of the success of it is triaging the different crimes. Who can get the tougher sentence for what? How do you put that information together, and how do you work as a team? And so that's kind of how all the ingredients sort of work, like we talked about. But at the end of the day, the meat that we have in our community is about public safety. That is the number one issue on everybody's mind.
Well, and we have we've got a role model situation with everybody collaborating and working together, and that takes leadership.
Right.
Thank you for helping to pull them all together.
Sure.
But I think everybody has noticed. I've noticed that crime is down.
Yeah.
And so that's
And I would love to take credit for it, but we got to give that to Chief Hassel. I mean, I think I did create an environment where we were all started talking and trying to break down some of those barriers, and that's one of the things that the mayor does. You know, you don't see me vote because I don't have a vote. You know, but what I can do is work to facilitate environments and events that can create a sort of a harmony of purpose and direction, and that's what we've been working on. That's what I have been working on.
great.
All right.
How much duck do you put in this?
So the recipe calls for about 3 pounds, and it calls for really whole ducks. But you know, a lot of times I will just breast out the
This
duck.
is a little duck. Right?
Well, that's actually a big duck. I would
Oh.
call that a big. That's probably a mallard, and I know it looks small, but that's what they look like when they come into the line.
And the dark meat kind of looks like liver.
It does. It really does. But that's a duck breast, and so a lot of times, you know, there's not a whole lot of meat on the bird except for the breast. So a lot of people, for sake of time, will just breast it out, keep the breast, and freeze it. And I've done that here. And so what we'll do is we'll take 3 quarts of water, we'll throw it into a big old pot. We'll throw in 1 entire clove of garlic or head of garlic, several cloves. We will throw
The whole
in
head. You throw
a whole head.
But
You know,
you
I
have
got
to
to peel it.
peel
You got
it
to peel
still
it. You got to
first.
peel. You're
Okay.
peeling it. Absolutely. You're throwing it into the pot of water along with the ham hock, and I like to
Okay.
cut that up, slice that up, put it in the pot, and then we'll boil it for 2-3 hours until the duck is falling off the bone.
Now, do you simmer it? Do you bring it to a boil and then kind of simmer
I'll
it?
bring it to the boil, let it do that for maybe a minute, and then I'll simmer it for 2-3 hours.
Could you do it in a crock pot?
You could, or an Instant Pot really works the best because
yeah.
that'll break it down a lot faster.
Uh-huh.
But you know, if I have time, and a lot of times I'm at the hunting camp when we're doing this, I don't have all those things to work with, and so what I'll do is I'll generate this beautiful, lovely broth.
Yeah.
And so after that comes to a simmer after 3 hours, or we're deboning the duck and trying to get that all ready. We're taking the garlic out and we're taking the ham out and we're straining the broth into something else.
Okay. So you don't leave the ham in it.
Do
for
not
the
leave the
long
ham
run.
in it. No, we'll come back to that. That's a
Okay.
whole other process. So, and then what we'll do with that is we'll take those 2 items. Along with a little bit of butter, a little bit of the broth that's remaining, and we will puree it and make it into a sort of a gravy. And so you won't be able to see it in the actual stew, but that flavor's still there. It kind of gives that little accent. And we'll add a little parsley to that puree.
And this is fresh.
That's
chopped up
fresh chopped
parsley.
parsley. Absolutely. I mean, as fresh as you can get.
Okay. Well, let's do another ingredient.
Okay.
Economic development. I have seen through Carolina's Gateway Partnership, through bringing UNC government people in
Right,
to help with the
right,
various things
right.
that there's a lot going on economically. I mean, I keep hearing, I'm so sorry. I mean, I understand that Norris Tolson needs to, I mean, he's just been wonderful.
Oh, he's awesome. He is awesome.
He's hanging around, right?
He is. He's going to stick around with us for at least another year. And if I have my way, it'll be longer than that. Because he's a guy that everybody has such a tremendous respect for. That they'll answer his phone call. I don't care what party we're talking about, party affiliation. I don't care if it's local, if it's state, federal. Just such a tremendous respect for his body of work that he's done throughout his life. And quite frankly, that's been invaluable for us at the Gateways Partnership. Absolutely has. We have a new guy, Mr. Pike, and I'm excited to see and help and assist moving forward on that. But one of the things that was really interesting, when I first became mayor, we had just crossed the $1 billion mark when it came to capital on the ground for economic development. And I thought it was a big deal, $1 billion, because up to that point, we'd been kind of measuring things in a couple $100 million, 500 jobs, that kind of thing. Today, we have 49 active projects. And to be an active project, we have to have talked to them within the last 30 days. They have to be showing active interest, totaling $53 billion of capital that will go on the ground.
Wow.
I know. It's amazing, and that would create in excess of 55,000 jobs. Now, look, we don't have the capacity
Sure.
to put all that in play right now. But the point is, you can use that as a barometer of interest that's happening in our particular community. And there are a number of things that are going on that drive that, but primarily that CSX intermodal has been the biggest singular driver for a lot of that interest. Plus, we have Kingsborough as a mega site with all the utilities, all the infrastructure in place, makes it as site ready as you can make it without actually building it for somebody.
And once CSX looked like it was falling through, if we hadn't had local leadership,
That's exactly right.
such as you and Carolina's Gateway and Partnership, and of course the governor too, pushing to find a way to keep it here, we would have lost
That's
it.
right. Well, and not only that, I mean, just think about it. We optioned all that land out there as a community. I was not part of that initiative. Optioned all that land to secure the location of the site to be able to have the conversation with CSX. And you have to do that to make projects like that happen. And we're so grateful. I'm so grateful that Smithfield didn't want it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
When
that
I
worked
heard
out
that,
well. That worked out well
was
for
great.
us. So praise the Lord on that.
Let's do a couple other ingredients, then we're going to take a break. So once then you've already gotten that softened, what, 3 hours? Did you say 3 hours?
2 to 3 hours, something in that neighborhood
Okay.
is what it'll take, and then it'll start just falling off the bones.
Okay.
You know, and you have to watch it out still
and
for some
you
shock.
kind of shred it and whatnot with your hands?
We'll
or-
shred it with our hands, and we'll just kind of set it aside. And
Okay.
so, you know, we've created that puree that we talked about, which really was the ham. I will cut some of the fat off of it because
Yeah.
everybody's more health conscious these days. But keep that salted meat, the garlic, a little bit of broth, and the parsley. Create that, set that aside. And then what we'll do after we've deboned this, we will take the broth. Well, actually, what we'll do is we'll take the pot, clean it out. Just a paper towel. You don't need to wash it or anything. And I'll put a stick of butter in. But you can use duck fat. You can use olive oil. You can use whatever you like. And then I will take the onions and I'll add that in because that creates a lot of flavor.
We've got them covered up.
Yeah, for
folks, 'cause
obvious reasons.
Yeah, they're chopped, and we know that they're chopped. So about how many onions?
It's about 3
Big ones?
Big, yellow onions. What I like to use
Okay.
a little bit more pungent, a little bit more.
They are
whatever.
pungent. Yeah.
They are, but it also adds to the flavor, right? So
Uh-huh.
you simmer it down.
Of course.
So I'll take that along with the celery, and this is a whole leek. This is the celery.
Okay.
And then we'll take that along with the leeks, which is basically 1.5 leeks, and I'll chop off the ends, just slice it up real thinly. Yet another onion, so you got to be prepared for
But
onions.
leeks are excellent.
Yeah, they are, and so we'll take that, we'll saute it, clarify the onions, soften up the celery, soften up the leeks, and once that's kind of happened.
I want to take a break and come
Okay.
back starting with clarify the onions because
Okay.
I'm not sure everybody understands what that means.
All right,
and
we'll do it.
would teach us the process. So
All right.
We'll be right back.
There's never been a better time to sell or trade your used car or truck.
Davenport Auto Park is ready to buy your pre-loved vehicle. The market is hot for used cars and we're paying top dollar.
Drive into Davenport today and turn your car into cash.
You'll get a cash offer on the spot. We'll even pay off your loan and give you a ride home.
Or we'll help you pick out a new ride.
Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount. For the ride of your life and the life of your ride. Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount.
I'm wondering how many of you know how to clarify onions. So we are going to ask.
It is a painfully
Sandy.
simple process,
Okay.
So I take the butter and I melt it, but again, you can use duck fat, you can use olive oil, whatever your thing is. I just like the extra flavor that salted butter brings
yeah.
and the calories that it comes with it. Then we take the onion, I know, right? And then we take the onions and then we just put them in the pan and we just eventually, as you cook them, they will clarify, they will become more clear. And so that's what we mean by clarifying the onions. And along with that are going to be the leeks and are going to be the celery as well. And we'll soften all that up and create this nice, beautiful
Blend of
smelling.
flavors.
Absolutely.
And all of this is a one pot. Everything's done in one pot.
Everything's
right?
done in one pot. You will need something to transfer the broth into after you've
And
done
bring
that,
it
kind of
back.
set it aside, then bring it back. So yes. But other than that, it's just one pot. A lot of cutting, as you can see.
Oh yeah. Well, it's beautifully cut already. So next you've got potatoes and
Rutabagas.
rutabagas
Or
And-
turnips, I guess.
and pinto beans.
And pinto beans. Yeah, the recipe calls for beans. I'm too lazy to actually cook the beans from.
Well, and you don't need to because these are even organic.
I know.
Pinto beans,
I know.
low sodium. Wow.
I know.
So you're trying to make it healthy all of a
Well,
sudden?
I feel better about myself for that one. It's like
Of
drinking
course.
that Diet Coke along with that
Ham,
Big Mac,
butter, whatever, and low sodium.
You gotta
low
cut it where you can.
Okay. And so, in what order do you put all this stuff in?
So after the onions, the only thing that's important first are the onions and the celery and the
cook
leeks
those.
to cook those in.
And now, what about the carrots? I would think the carrots would have to be cooked.
No,
softened,
no. I
no?
mean, some of them might fall in there, but no, we'll deal with that on the stew. And this
Okay.
is cabbage, so we got some cabbage and
chopped cabbage.
chopped
okay.
cabbage. I like Savoy cabbage, but you can use anything you want to.
And-
Right? And that's the other thing. A stew is, you've got ingredients, but that's really a suggestion.
Well, and let's talk about ingredients, though.
Sure.
Let's go back to
All right.
earlier. So, transportation was a big issue here. Education are big
Sure.
issues
Sure.
as we talk about blending the community like we're blending a stew.
Right.
Comment on what's been accomplished in those two arenas.
Well, so several things have happened. One, I've been able to talk to North Carolina DOT and get Rocky Mount on the commuter rail program. That's something that we had been ignored from. I mean, I was really upset when I saw the plan. And we're second only to California in terms of our readiness to be able to participate in the federal DOT's programming. They're really pushing passenger rail right now. And, we're the fourth fastest growing state in the union. We have just got this tremendous influx. We've got to figure a way to either build more roads, or we've got to figure a way to create more of a mass transit opportunity.
Absolutely.
And seeing that Rocky Mount was a railroad town, I was just amazed that we were left off. And I'm not sure why, but I was able to raise my hand, call up NCDOT and say, hey, look, put us on the passenger rail study. And so, so that we can commute back and forth to Raleigh fairly quickly. It creates an opportunity for folks to sit back and do a little bit of work on their ride to Raleigh and commute back and forth. And I think that really could add some impact to us, economically and otherwise. Communities really live and economically begin to breathe when you've created a middle class. And, and that's when you have more restaurants. That's when you have more stuff, and that money is constantly recirculating in the community. So anything you can do to facilitate either A, the growth in income levels for people, or B, create an environment where it's easy for them to transition back and forth, it's just all of our benefits.
Well, and I was involved in that transportation study that was done, and it looked like a lot of effort was going into deciding what we're doing now might not be the best way to do it.
Right.
So let's talk about little mini trips and whatnot.
So that was the other piece I want to talk about. Microtransit is what they call it. So I was frankly jealous that Wilson got ahead of us on this. They, before COVID, all their buses came up for lease, and they said, what we're going to do? We're going to create an Uber-like system. It's called Ride. And you can either hit it on your phone, you can call somebody, they will come pick you up from point A, take you to point B. The challenge they're having is that their system has grown now 300 times, 300%. And so I don't think it's going to be a sustainable model for them, but it shows the popularity of it and the impact of it. So one of the things I did when I was running for mayor, and I still like to do from time to time, is I'll go take the bus. So I live over by the City Lake. I toddle over to the bus stop that's by the City Lake, give them my ticket, go to the transit station, then I say I'm going to go to the food line in Oakwood. So then I get on another bus, I go to the food line in Oakwood, then I hop back on the bus and I come back home. And that takes about an hour and a half to do that. I mean, if you time it right, you can maybe it's 45 minutes on a really good day, but it took me about an hour. It takes me about an hour.
Somebody's buying groceries and you can't buy anything that has to be kept cold and whatnot for all that time.
But it's not only that. So, single moms, they don't have child care. The things that keep people in poverty the most are transportation and child care, particularly when we start talking about women, and we have a large number of women that fall in that category. And so if you can get them from point A to point B, that trip now shrinks, because I can drive from my house to Oakwood in less than 7 minutes, easy. And so if I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for job retraining or educational opportunities, I need to be able to have a reliable transportation system that takes me from point A to point B. Now, in fairness, we have a transit system like that after hours, but you really are getting on a bus line and people are picking you up and then they'll take you home, but that process could take you an hour plus. Just think about it. If I'm relying on my mom or my friend or my neighbor to take care of my child and it takes me 2 extra hours a day, that's a real stressor. So it looks like the study will be presented next month in the Committee of the Whole. And just to give you a little bit of a tease on what it looks like, I think it looks like in more impoverished areas of our community, we're going to rely on microtransit, or at least the study's going to recommend that. And ironically not in more affluent areas as well, only because the ridership is down in those areas. So, why do you have a big
put it
bus?
where they need it.
Why do you have a big bus doing all this when you're only going to use it for a little bit? So I'm hopeful that it'll come back in such a way that we'll be able to implement and adopt that. I see that as a way to really try to elevate people's life and try to create opportunities for income.
Absolutely.
Because, if you can grow what you have, and you can benefit everybody that's in place, and that's where you are. So these are things that I've been able to do without necessarily council approval. I certainly share what I do, but I try to tee things up in a way that I think makes sense, that's a little bit more efficient for one person to do versus 7 getting together. I work with the city manager on most all of these, absolutely all of those.
And you had a big handful of opportunities and things to do with transitioning to a new city manager. And
Sure.
seems like he's doing a great job.
I think he is. I'm happy with the decisions he's making. At the end of the day, that's what's going to really drive us to success as a community. I mean, we like to think that we're also important, and the council is. The council is very important. Don't mean to diminish that, so don't call me. Don't call me. But the city manager really is the one who does the day-to-day, has the rank and file, implementing the pay study, implementing what we're asking them to do, and just doing the daily work business. That's the guy who gets our sanitation taken care of. That's the guy who gets our roads fixed. That's the guy who
But
does
he
all
works for you, and a lot of people don't
He does.
realize the hierarchy. The council hires him,
That's
and then
right.
he reports to you, and you hold him
Well,
accountable.
he doesn't report to me, but
To the
we
council,
but
doesn't
we
he?
do. He reports to council 100%.
Right.
But I meet with him and have since I've been mayor. Each one of our managers on a weekly basis, A, to understand what's going on, B, to find out what they can need help with. You know, I mean, I have a lot of connections and political affiliations, you know, both nationally and statewide, and I try to bring those to the table to help us as a community when I can.
And I want to say something.
Yeah.
Ever since you've been mayor,
Right.
you give your salary straight to the United, a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and now it's to the United
That's
Way
right.
to feed it right back in the community. So
That's
you're
right.
doing this all.
Well, I just feel like that's the right thing to do, and again, it's hard to. I believe you need to eat your own cooking. You know, to borrow a little expression that my mom used to say.
Yep.
Eat your own cooking.
Well, now, have we got everything in the pot, right?
We don't have everything in the pot yet. We've
Okay,
just clarified the onions. We've just got a little bit of broth
We've
going.
had the healthy pinto
the
beans.
healthy pinto beans.
Okay,
absolutely.
now the potatoes and
Those are
rutabagas?
turnips.
Turnips, okay.
Although I love rutabagas, and again, I think that would go
Rutabagas
great in
would
the
be
stew if we wanted
orange,
to.
too. Okay, so turnips and potatoes then are chopped small and they go in.
Throw it into the broth. Throw it in with the meat. Throw in your beans. A little bit of cayenne pepper.
How much?
About a half a teaspoon. And by the way, I'll put a little bit of that in the puree too, just to give it
Okay.
a little bit of kick.
Okay.
The cabbage goes in, and now we got everything in the pot.
And does it fit? Does all this
It
stuff?
doesn't fit in that pot. I brought
Yeah.
that for us in the studio. But
Okay.
yeah, normally I'll be doing this in I don't know,
Yeah,
a
I'm
5-gallon kind of almost you know.
You have a bunch of big family gatherings.
That's
to
right.
eat that type of
Absolutely,
stuff.
absolutely. Or a lot of hungry hunters anyway.
Have we put in all the ingredients? I think we
Everything's
have.
in. Everything's
Okay.
in now.
Well, let's take a break, and we're
Okay.
gonna serve up some of that for
Okay.
us to eat, and we'll be right back.
There's never been a better time to sell or trade your used car or truck.
Davenport Auto Park is ready to buy your pre-loved vehicle. The market is hot for used cars and we're paying top dollar.
Drive into Davenport today and turn your car into cash.
You'll get a cash offer on the spot. We'll even pay off your loan and give you a ride home.
Or we'll help you pick out a new ride.
Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount. For the ride of your life and the life of your ride. Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount.
Sandy, now I'm looking how much you've got for us to eat, and this isn't a whole lot,
Well, it's pretty thick though.
is it?
Yeah, I think
And
you're gonna like
very
it.
hearty. I can't wait to taste it. This is one of those things that people who like slow simmering, blending
Yeah.
of flavors and whatnot, and I did read from the menu, and it's going to be on Cuisine with Jean website, that it's called a French stew.
It is of French origin, yes, but you know, I'm not going to try to pretend how to pronounce it.
Well, it's even better than I hoped it'd be.
Right? It's got a lot of flavor to it,
Oh, yeah.
and
Wow.
and it gets better as it sits. It really does. I mean, the flavors begin to amalgamate, and it's just really been good.
And it serves maybe 10 people or
Yeah,
more?
10 servings easy, no question about
Wow,
it.
and as we go into colder weather, I just think
This is
would be
perfect, right?
Absolutely. But could you substitute something for duck?
Of course you can. You can do. Some people do venison. You could do. You know,
Can you do chicken even?
you could do chicken,
Beef,
turkey, beef. I mean, whatever you want to put in there. It's
Wow. Yeah, because not everybody has.
No.
It's not easy to find duck to put in.
and a lot of times duck comes out kind of tasting gamey, and so this really eliminates all that.
Before we close, I want to mention you have been meeting with neighboring mayors and whatnot, working to pull people together, as well as on internet. And I know during COVID, we learned so badly how much we need internet.
Oh my gosh, yeah, COVID really highlighted that for us. And one of the things that we realized is that we didn't have the ability to add internet as a utility. In fact, in the state of North Carolina, you cannot do that.
Oh.
But during that process, I was even interviewed on NBC Nightly News, as a result of that whole.
Honored a Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I called it a tale of two cities. But it was such a significant need that we really need to talk about it. Well, today we have two other cable companies coming to town. One is MetroNet. The other one is Cloudwise.
Yeah.
And they will provide us a gig upstream and downstream in addition to what we currently have. They've committed to creating the infrastructure for the entirety of the city of Rocky Mount, which was a big deal for us.
Great.
It is costing taxpayers nothing, and I am so super excited. Calling them nothing, so I'm so super excited about that.
Yeah.
But that's now the new corner of Main Street and Main Street is the internet. And if you don't have the broadband, the capacity, and the access to it, you're not in the game.
And for our young people, I mean, I know you've got a lot of, and we're running out of time, but education-wise, you're really putting a lot of effort.
Yeah, and we got a lot of challenges in the community, as you know, with the demerger, remerger, however you want to phrase that, and we've got to really figure a way for everybody to win in this story and to create a tax base so that we can promote education for our kids, whatever that looks like. I'm not an educator, but here's what I do know. Where you can create some affluent areas, education tends to follow, it tends to be better, and we need to be able to do that for our kids.
And we've got to raise up these kids who have been left behind.
That's right. That's 100% right.
Completely.
If we want our community to succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come here.
I appreciate the stew, too.
You bet. It'll send some home.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
There's never been a better time to sell or trade your used car or truck.
Davenport Auto Park is ready to buy your pre-loved vehicle. The market is hot for used cars and we're paying top dollar.
Drive into Davenport today and turn your car into cash.
You'll get a cash offer on the spot. We'll even pay off your loan and give you a ride home.
Or we'll help you pick out a new ride.
Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount. For the ride of your life and the life of your ride. Davenport Auto Park, Rocky Mount.